Hi everyone, my name is Daquan Johnson, and I'm going to talk to you about how I'm going to medical school for free and how you can do the same. So first, let's look at some stats. Let's try to understand how much does it actually cost to go to medical school. So if we go to the AAMC website, we can see that on average, if you're going to a 4-year private medical school, it costs students around $322,767. While if you go to a public school in the United States, you can pay about $243,902 on average. And 76% of students who graduate from medical schools graduate in debt, and the median debt is around $200,000. This is data from 2018 that we can see on the AAMC website. And so one of the things I want to tell you now is, for me, the way that I'm going to medical school for free and even being paid to go is by being an MD PhD student in a medical scientist training program. All terms that I'll probably describe in a different video, but what that boils down to is that I'm being paid to go to medical school and also go to graduate school, get both of my doctorate degrees, and then go out, do research on biomedical research, and change the way that therapies and medicine is practiced. And so for me, that's super cool because I get a chance to get the best education, become the best physician, in addition to getting a very detailed education on trying to make sure that I can change the face of how medicine is done. And so obviously I have to talk about some of the drawbacks too, but first and foremost, the pros of being an MD PhD student is the fact that you get the best of both worlds. You become an expert in a single field through your PhD, but you still understand the very big picture, especially of human health and human disease and how it interacts with the world genetically and in different situations and in different environments. The other thing is that throughout our training as MD PhD students and as MD PhD trainees, we develop emotionally, professionally, and intellectually in ways that I don't think is pretty comparable, because we get a chance to develop into two completely different spheres of how science operates and how science works. And I think that creates a different thought process that allows us to approach problems in a very different way. And then the obvious benefit of going to medical school for free. But obviously, with some of the pros comes a lot of cons. So the MD PhD route naturally takes more time because you're getting 2 degrees. And that extra time is 4 extra years on average. So in the United States, an MD PhD takes about 8 years. Another thing to think about is just because you have that extra doctorate doesn't mean you get paid more. So most of the time in clinical duties, MD only physicians tend to get paid more simply because they are more focused on their craft and they tend to be a little bit better at their craft. Where MD PhDs tend to have their time split, where they're doing far less clinical duties and more heavily spent on the research side. And the other aspect is dealing with that time is that there's delayed gratification. So if you're taking a traditional MD PhD pathway like I am, where you have 2 years of preclinical, 4 years of graduate school, and 2 years of clinical parts of medical school, that means you have to wait a full 6 years after entering medical school to really get your hands wet and get into the trenches and really see how does the hospital work, which rotations are the best, where are your clinical skills, which clinical avenues will you really want to pursue. And so some of those things are delayed gratification that you have to kind of wait for. And the last part is that if you don't enjoy research, you really will not enjoy your PhD years. And so those 4 years will be really difficult because you have to work through a lot of trial and error, a lot of tough work, a lot of specializing and niching down to a very specific topic and becoming an expert in that space. And if that's not what you like to do, that 4 years is probably not worth what you're saving for, where you're just investing in becoming a clinical physician and moving on and moving to what you're really passionate about. But enough said about what I'm doing, but there's some other things I want to impart to you guys that I could probably share with all of you, just to give you some ideas in terms of how else you can finance medical school. So first things first, NYU basically broke the news when they decided to make tuition at their institution completely free. And that's completely changing the things for a lot of those students going to NYU now, because that's a huge fraction of their debt that you no longer have to worry about. But again, thinking about the pros and the cons, there's some things you have to think about, that New York City is kind of an expensive place to live. Even though you're getting free tuition, there are other costs of living like food, housing, transportation, and insurance that you have to kind of figure in. Other things to think about is just after coming from undergrad, like you can get scholarships for merit. You can get scholarships for merit in medical school as well. So if your MCAT scores are really great and medical schools really want you, they can also give you tuition remission and also pay for your tuition, or also give you scholarships to help you cover the costs of medical school. There are also financial-based and need-based programs that exist to help students who may be struggling to pay for medical school. And some of these programs exist even before getting into medical school, like the fee assistance program. The fee assistance program also allows you to apply for 15 free applications to medical school and even get some free MCAT prep materials for students who may not be able to afford it. So thinking outside the box and making sure that you recognize that there's a lot of ways for you to actually finance medical school and not just thinking about just getting the loans. And even still, I'll put a link down below from the AMC about different ways to reduce medical school debt. And the AAMC gives us an article that we can probably use that would probably be great information for many people. So what are some of the ways we can actually lower costs? We can lower upfront costs just by applying to more schools smartly. Searching for the right financial aid, improving financial literacy where you're not wasting money and you're getting exactly what you need. Entering into an income-driven repayment program, so where after you finish medical school, you go to these special programs and they'll remit some of your debt payment. So these are some other examples that we can find that are resources out there for us to take advantage of, and realizing how you can make that debt repayment process and the cost of medical school much less. So I hope that helps. I'll drop a lot of these links and a lot of these resources down for you, even a couple of others from the AAMC. And hopefully you enjoyed this content. Drop some comments down below if there's anything I said inside this video that you want me to expound upon, that you want to learn more about, or just any new topics you want me to talk about. I look forward to talking to you all and see you in the next video.